Immigration has become one of the most controversial issues in the UK. Do you think immigrants are taking our jobs? Every year, hundreds of thousands of people come into the UK through different routes, from the English Channel to legal arrival through UK airports. Are immigrants really taking our jobs? To find out, I'm traveling across the UK, speaking to people, experts, and those who may genuinely have the answers. And this is far from a regular investigation video. To begin this investigation, I wanted to visit one of the busiest ports in the entire UK, Dover, to better understand why thousands of migrants attempt to cross the English Channel every single year, and how this issue has become one of the biggest debates in Britain. When people talk about immigration in the UK, this is what usually comes to their mind. Every year, people cross the channel on small boats, making Dover one of the most talked about places in the country. Before we continue, it's important to point out that the majority of people who come to the UK through immigration arrive legally, and most do not cross the channel in small boats. However, because these crossings have become one of the most controversial parts of the immigration debate, I thought Dover would be the best place to start this investigation and hear what people living and visiting had to say.
Sort out the mess that Brexit was created, never let Nigel Farage into power.
Do you think the UK has an immigration problem?
I think it's more complex than that. I think as a country of immigrants, what we actually are is something much bigger than just an immigration problem. We went across the world, we invaded half the world, had a fantastic empire, but a lot of that multicultural that actually is here of immigrants is actually a positive thing. It separates us from places like America so much actually, and other places around the world, and being accepting of that is actually when we've had the most prosperity. Is if people demonize migration when actually they're doing a lot of the hardest jobs. If we look towards the Windrush generation, for example, and other generations like that, they were great nurses, they actually are the bastion of the NHS.
After speaking to him, I realised just how complex this issue really was. A lot of people seem to have different perspectives around immigration, and later in our conversation, he would make an interesting point about Brexit that completely changed the way I looked at the debate. But before we get into that, I think it's important to understand how we got here. Brexit was the UK's decision to leave the European Union following the 2016 referendum. While there were many reasons people voted to leave, one of the biggest reasons throughout the campaign was immigration, with many people believing that leaving the EU would give the UK greater control over its borders and the immigration system. Wanting to understand the topic beyond the headlines, I spent time researching how the UK's immigration system works, how it's changed over the years, and why it's continued to divide opinions across the country. But reading reports and statistics only tell you so much. Before speaking to the immigration expert later in this investigation, I wanted to hear directly from the public. So with that in mind, we headed into London to find out what people had to say. So the first person I decided to ask was this gentleman, to see if he thought if the UK had an immigration problem.
It's not just UK in general. It's just certain just the white people. Certain white people don't really like immigration, but some of them do, and I gotta tell them straight facts. Not all of them are bad. Some of them, yeah, cool. Some immigrate guys. So it's like some of them do the mad stuff. Some of them are just there to work, get money and stuff. Like me, obviously, I'm an immigrant.
I then decided to follow up by asking if he thinks immigrants are taking our jobs.
Yes, they are. As you can see, bro, everywhere you go, every restaurant, it's gonna be immigrants working there. You don't see a black man, a white man working in restaurants, all these places. You get what I'm saying? That's why, yeah, it's not right. Take our jobs, it's not fair. Yeah, go do Uber, Deliveroo, Uber Eats. Not going to these restaurants and saying, yeah, this is my job. Nah, what about fast, man? What?
So I was also able to speak to this young man and hear his perspective on the immigration in the UK. Do you think immigrants are taking our jobs?
Personally, I don't really think that they're taking. I can't really assume that they're taking our jobs. It's the fact that they're putting in more work into getting jobs in this country.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Take care. Before we can answer if immigrants are really taking our jobs, there's something important that we need to understand. When people talk about immigration, they often talk about one single thing, but the reality is it's much more complicated than that. Because behind every statistic is a real person, and behind every headline is a real story. After hearing so many different public opinions, I wanted to move beyond the debate to find out what was actually being done to address one of the UK's biggest political issues. So our next step was the Home Office.
What are you guys doing? Documentary.
But before then, I wanted to speak with the man we met earlier once again, as I felt there was still more to uncover.
And then we have African migrants, a lot of them that are coming through, escaping from war zones. And the same as Syria. This isn't economic migration. What this is a very different thing. This is people escaping conflict. Now, we can't take everything, but that's why we have an immigration process. If they can reach into the country, no matter how dangerous it is, you have to process them, see what they are. Are they either a criminal? Are they this? Are they just an economic migrant with no skill set? But if they're an economic migrant fleeing war, then it's a very different thing. I do not believe this sort of false creation of immigration that is a bad thing. These army of boats, I actually believe a lot of that has been done by our enemies and foreign governments to try and stoke change and division in this country. We are a country very much of white British people, but at the same time we're very much a country of black British people, like our friend here, who have come from either places like Nigeria, all over the Africa, from the West Indies, who support this country hugely as a minority and are incredibly important to our country.
Too poppy in the UK, never that, but never went. Well, look at the NHS, man. There's a million plus NHS work. Over 100,000, 300,000. NHS are collapsed, not immigrants. The confusion around different types of immigration is one of the reasons this topic has become such a debated thing in the UK. For example, people talk about migrants arriving by boats. That's only one small part of the entire immigration picture that people tend to focus on. The UK also has hundreds of thousands of people arriving through legal routes every single year, including workers filling roles across many different industries such as healthcare, construction, hospitality and cleaning roles that people often overlook. However, critics argue that migration can result in higher level competition for jobs, put pressure on housing, and affect wage from industries. This brings us back to the main question of this documentary. Are immigrants really taking jobs away from British workers? Or is the reality more complicated?
The more I looked into the issue, the more I realised that public opinions alone wasn't enough. To better understand the facts behind the debate, I spoke with an immigration expert to see if he could answer some of the questions we'd uncovered along the way. Could you introduce yourself and let me know what you do professionally?
I am an IA authorized immigration advisor. So Immigration Advice Authority is a regulated body from the UK government. We are fully trained and qualified in the immigration related stuff from the Immigration Advice Authority.
How long have you been working in immigration for?
About 5 years.
From your professional perspective, do you think the UK has an immigration problem?
So immigration, I mean, in what context you're asking about?
So do you think the UK is negatively or positively affected by immigration?
From my personal experience and advice, right, the UK is not negatively impacted with immigration stuffs because, we have lots of people where through immigration we get people in terms of healthcare and care homes, and the most of the NHS staffs, right? So they are from they were immigrants as well. So they work and TSMly helped. Overall healthcare system in the UK, it's almost fully runs through the immigrant. So there is no, I personally feel there is no negative impact in terms of immigration for the UK. Support the community and they pay their taxes.
Now, after speaking to both the immigration expert and the man we met earlier, I noticed they both challenged one of the biggest assumptions in this debate. Neither believed immigration itself was the root cause of many issues people were describing. That made me ask a different question. If immigration isn't the whole story, where should the focus really be? Is public frustration being directed at migrants, or are there underlying problems linked to government policy, the economy, housing, public services? There was only one place left to go, the Home Office.
With immigration becoming one of the biggest issues in UK politics, pressure has fallen on the government to control the system. But balancing immigration comes with many different challenges. The government has promised to reduce illegal immigration, particularly small bulk crossings, but still allowing businesses to recruit workers in areas where there are shortages.
And the reason I decided to go to the Home Office is because it's responsible for the immigration policy, border control, and decisions around how the system operates. But before finishing this investigation, I wanted to return to the man we met earlier. His perspective was one of the first that challenged my own understanding of this debate. And after everything we explored, I wanted to hear his final thoughts.
Do you think immigrants are taking our jobs?
No, if anything, I actually think a lot of the immigrants take the jobs that we can't fill. So a lot of the time they will do the cleaning jobs, they'll do the shit jobs because they want to make it here. I'm not saying all migrants are like this, but this is the vast majority. It is a lie for people to say that all migrants and more than 100% or 97% are all just bullshit trying to leech off our state. No, they're trying to here to aid, and if they're not, they get returned. And it doesn't need to be as dramatic as what we've seen in parliaments, trying to be horrific about the system, almost Nazi-ish. That's not what we are. We're a country of multicultural people, multi-faith, no faith, and of many ethnicities. That is not a problem that we really need to do. We need to solve Plantier, for example, and the NHS, that's a huge thing, and solve some other elements within our country. Sort out the mess that Brexit was created, never let Nigel Farage into power.
While immigration is often discussed through the challenges it creates, it is also important to understand why so many people choose the UK in the first place. The UK has long been seen as a country with opportunities, with its universities, job market, international connections, and established communities from around the world, making it an attractive destination for many people. For some, moving to the UK represents the chance to build a better future.
A lot of people say that immigrants are taking our jobs, quote unquote. Do you think that's accurate based on your experience?
It's not accurate at all. Again, I'm saying that so all the jobs or like all the employers in the UK, they have to evaluate the candidate and to the merits of the profile and the requirement of the role. So there is no way it is kind of influenced by the immigration status or like by the country of origin or like the religion, etc. Right? So there is no discrimination at all. So it is purely based on the merits of the individual profile and the requirements of the job. And moreover, in the recent times, right, so with the highly volatile the immigration systems and the reforms that has been proposed, and so due to these kind of changes in the immigration system, the immigrants are not getting jobs right now. So that is the kind of way we are heading towards. So just because like you need a certificate of sponsorship or something from an employer, so the employer is not ready to hire. So even for the job roles, right, so they clearly say we cannot sponsor you, though they have the sponsorship license. They say like, no, we are not going to sponsor you. And I have seen personally many cases that the employers say like, we cannot extend your visa because like there is been an uncertainty in the current system, right? So they don't want to extend the visa, and they've been made redundant and let go.
Interestingly, when we arrived at the Home Office, we were immediately approached by staff who questioned us about filming. It was a reminder that this is not just a topic debated online or in Parliament. Immigration is a subject closely connected to real institutions and the decisions made inside them.
I understand the government building like this. Outside of it.
Man was essentially saying that because it was private property that we weren't actually allowed to film. But I argue this is public property because it's a government building. But I do get to pick his brain a little bit later on.
I know where you're coming from. I'm sorry. I'll let my team know.
And he did mention that he had to go back inside to let his team know what we were doing.
Is it a question?
Yeah.
What was it for?
So basically, it's a video about the immigration crisis in the UK, but it's like a documentary. So we've been around like central London. We were asking people, giving opinions and like interviews and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
But the Home Office obviously is a government building, so it's like it can be included as like a voiceover. That's kind of where we're coming from. Like the government building.
Yeah.
And it's gonna like be part of the video.
Okay.
So that's what we're kind of doing. We're not filming like the staff or anything. If that's
okay. No, of course. So you're just doing it for immigration again, you say?
The immigration crisis in the UK. Do you know anything about it? Or?
Okay.
I don't know.
Alright, yeah, just give you a heads up, my camera's on you. As I said, it's like recorded.
But we're finished now, basically. So we'll.
God bless you. Thank you for understanding.
No problem. Thank you. Gave no comments.
After everything we had explored through this investigation, I felt it was important to return to our conversation with the immigration expert and get his final thoughts. Having looked at public opinion, the government's approach, and the different perspectives surrounding immigration, I wanted to understand what conclusions could be drawn from everything we had uncovered. Why do you think immigration has become such a controversial topic?
Okay, so it's pure the people perspective and the politics, right? So that's why, right? So I mean, the most of the problems I would say, like in terms of the benefits people are getting for people come by the boats illegally.
Do you think that's more like perspective versus actual facts?
Yes.
Now, after everything that I've seen throughout the day, I wanted to come back to the question that started it all. Are immigrants really taking our jobs? From speaking with the public, hearing from the immigration expert, and looking at the wider debate, it became clear that the answer isn't as simple as headlines make it seem. While some people worry that immigration creates competition for jobs, others argue that immigrants are filling roles where businesses were struggling to find workers. The reality is that immigration can have different impacts depending on the industry, the economy, and the people involved. But after looking beyond the headlines, the biggest thing I've learned is that this debate cannot be reduced to a simple yes or no.
If you could correct one misconception about immigration, what would it be?
Misconception about, I mean, the difference between the illegal migration and the legal migration. So that is the misconception which I would highlight, because like the people come here legally, work their day in and day out for the country, for their self, and they contribute towards the economy. The illegal migration is all different, altogether the different context, right?
And would you say most people are wrong when it comes to their understanding of immigration in the UK?
Yes,